All right, so you guys will be live on YouTube in about a second. Mike, whenever you're ready.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to TradeStation. My name is Michael Burke, and I want to welcome you to another edition of our Trading Futures with FuturesPlus, powered by Trading Technologies. FuturesPlus is TradeStation's powerful new futures options and futures spreads trading platform, and it's packed with all the analysis and trading and account management tools you need to trade futures options and futures spreads more effectively. And we'll show you some of those tools here in a moment. This series is hosted by Bernie Schwartz. He's the Director of Platform Services and is also the Options Product Manager for Trading Technologies. And today's topic is building and trading futures options spreads. And we'll get started with Bernie in just a moment. The following presentation is for educational purposes only. All of the symbols and trading ideas discussed by the instructor are for demonstration purposes and are not recommendations. Active trading is not suitable for everyone. Futures and options trading, doubly so. Please see our website for additional risk disclosure information. If you have any questions during this presentation, please feel free to type those into the chat. If we don't get to your question during the session, we'll definitely get to your question by email at the end, and we'll make sure that everybody's questions get answered. We have some exciting news here at TradeStation. We have built out some new online educational tools for learning the TradeStation platform. If you're looking to get up to speed on the TradeStation platform, whether that's the thick platform or web and mobile tools, TradeStation Securities is now hosting a daily trading channel, getting started with TradeStation on youcantrade.com. Every day there's something new to learn, and you can ask questions, watch archive videos on all the TradeStation platforms, everything you need to know. Check it out with the link on the slide, and we'll also push that link into the chat. And you can join for free. And once you're ready to take your trading to that next level with TradeStation, you can subscribe to our new online masterclass. Now you can get all the same great advanced training that we offer in our in-person masterclass from the comfort of your home or office. And you get access to all of the great resources and special events that made the in-person masterclass so special. And you can check it out for free for 14 days. So as I said, Bernie Schwartz is the Director of Platform Services at Trading Technology, and he's the perfect guy to show us how to take advantage of all the great, powerful technology that's built into the FuturesPlus platform. Bernie, I'm going to turn it over to you right now.
Thanks very much, Mike. I am going to share my screen as soon as you're ready, Mike, and we can get started with the demonstration. So everybody should be able to see my workspace right now. I've got a whole bunch of information in this window. I'm going to go through a bit of it piece by piece, but as Mike mentioned, the focus today is going to be on building, executing, and managing option strategies or option spreads. In past webinars, we have talked about right options trading and how to track those positions. So we'll get a little more in depth with this one. If you take a look at my workspace now, and I'm going to close a couple of widgets that so we can simplify this right away, and I'll open them back up as we need them. What I've done here is I've created a grouped widget. In the top left corner is my options chain. I've chosen crude options for May 2020 since they're very liquid and we can easily build and execute strategies on those. I've grouped in the top right an MD trader, market data trader. Some people like to call it the ladder, display of market, so you can see the market on the instrument that we're working with. And in the bottom, I've grouped my strategy creation widget. And this is the tool that will actually allow us to send strategies to the exchange to be quoted, to be created, so that we can operate on them. Now, if you've used the FuturesPlus platform before, you may be familiar with our options chain here. So again, I've got the May crude options, which actually expire in April, but that is the way, that is industry convention, is to list them as May. I've got my strikes down the middle, calls on the left, and puts on the right. And then highlighted in red and blue here, of course, are the markets on each individual option. So as I select a different option, I'm going to click on the 51 put here. We can see that that is represented now. Our May 51 put is now represented in our DOM, our ladder, and we can see the market reflected there, 192 at 195, and we see the size of the market on each side of the trade. As I move around to different instruments, that ladder on the right-hand side will update with my new choice. So if I want to look at the 56 call, all I need to do is select that instrument, and you see we've got the market for the 56 call in the top right over here. That green laser line there is our theoretical value. In general, the theoretical value will land approximately midpoint of the bid and ask. It looks here like there are some bids on the call wing that are driving the market up a little bit, and our theoretical value is hovering right around the bid level. But in general, you'll see the theoretical value lands approximately mid-market on most instruments, especially on liquid ones like crude oil. For an example, I'm going to execute an outright option just so we can take a look at how that looks when it's filled, and then we'll get into some strategies. So if I had, when I started this presentation, I had my positions widget open. I have nothing in this widget right now. I have not yet put on a position, but I'm going to do so now. So on this 56 call that I just brought up, I have the ability to place an order. I'm going to place a bid for a 1 lot at 115. We have the confirm button on, so I'll firm buy. And we see that I'm now working a 115 bid on 1. To execute, I'm simply going to drag that up to the 118 offer, and I'll pay 118 on one May 56 call. And we can see in our positions widget that I've now executed one. If we look at our fills widget, we can see that I bought one. I'm going to take this out of summary mode and go to detail. We can see that I bought one for $1.18. We can see all the information associated with that trade, including the time of execution, the account that we're using, et cetera. And in our positions widget, of course, we've got that tracked as well. The P&L on this is 0 because this option is not yet traded again since I executed. So the last traded price is 118. So that's the P&L that we're going off of. When that option trades again, be it higher or lower, you will at a different price, you will see that reflected in the P&L. We'll go off of last traded price. So I'm now going to, since the focus of this is on strategies, I'm going to create a couple of strategies here in my workspace. Now, you'll see that when I do so, because I'm in simulation here, I can't actually send a message to the exchange. This is using live exchange market data, but it's using an internal matching engine. So no messages that I execute here, no trades I execute here will actually be going to the CME exchange. But when it comes time to actually create this spread, I'm going to switch quickly into our live environment so that I can create it and then come back to Sim to execute that strategy. So when building a strategy, there are a number of different ways that this can be accomplished. My favorite way by far is to build it directly from the options chain, and I'll demo that first. When looking at the option chain, you'll see up at the top here a couple of pre-built strategy types. There are only a handful here, and there may be more added in the future, but part of the reason that you don't see additional strategy types listed above is that it doesn't actually save clicks in order to create that strategy. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a moment. So if I want to build, let's say I'm in crude here in May, I'm going to build a very simple vertical spread. I'm going to build a 54-55 call spread. Now, since the call vertical is not listed as a pre-built strategy type, I would use this custom button. So if I select custom with a left click, we'll see now that I'm in spread building mode. That's what this little blue nodie in the top corner denotes. And I can start building my spread but with using legs. So I said I was going to build a 54-55 call spread. I'm going to click on the 54 call bid, the 55 call offer, And we see in the top left now, my spread that I'm building is buying one, or I should say long one, crude May 54 call, short one May 55 call. You'll see in the strategy creation widget that I've grouped with my option chain that those legs are displayed here as well. And you can see the bid and the offer on each leg, and you can see the theoretical value for each leg and all the Greeks that are associated as well. For this package as a whole, in the center here, we've got our theoretical value and the Greeks for the package as a whole. So if I'm satisfied with this strategy and I'm ready to build it, I'm going to click submit. That gets me ready to create the strategy at the exchange. Now, it's very possible this strategy may already exist. You'll see, and I did mention that being in simulation, when I click create, we're going to get a warning that pops up that says strategy creation is not supported in simulation. And that's going to be at the bottom. Oh, I think in a grouped widget, it may not display properly. The fact is that you cannot, because I cannot send a strategy to the exchange in simulation, I'm going to have to switch to live. So I'm going to do that now. So I've got my 54-55 call spread all queued up. I'm going to switch to the live environment. This will take a moment while the workspace refreshes and we pull up all the data. So you'll see this initializing modal for just a moment while it opens. You will see this when you open your workspaces as well. I'm going to create the strategy in our live environment, and I'll switch back to the simulation to execute it so that I don't actually, well, I guess I could make money, but I at least won't cost myself any money here. So I've got I'm in the live environment now. I'm going to create that 54, oops. Back up here, I'm going to create the 54-55 call spread. When I click this create button, that sends what's called an RFQ, a request for quote, to the exchange. So I'm going to create this strategy. And we see the status is resolving. It'll take a moment for the exchange to process it. And we see their status now is successfully created. I've now created the crude May 54-55 call vertical. Okay, that's great. It exists at the exchange. How do I operate on it? Well, now that I've created this strategy, you see you have a number of tools that you can use to operate on that strategy. Block trader is something that very few of you will use, probably none of you. This is for executing over-the-counter trades. Very unlikely that anybody on this webinar would use that function, but it is there for some clients who are brokers. What is most interesting is this trade button. So I've created that 54-55 call vertical. Clicking on that trade button will open up a display of market, a ladder for the 54-55 call vertical. So you'll see that the display here is very, very similar to the outright option. You see our strategy is listed up here at the top, 54-55 call vertical. And the market on this is 40-41. It's a very tight market, very tight spread. And you see our theoretical value hovering right there in the middle. We're leaning a little bit towards the bid. Now, again, I'm not going to execute this spread in live because this is a live account. So I'm going to switch back to my simulation account to execute this, and I'll do that in a moment. I do want to demonstrate a couple of things, though, while we are in live. Many users who are familiar with creating option strategies in equity markets are unfamiliar with the rules for futures options and the rules at various exchanges. Most viewers of this webinar will be trading at CME and at ICE, at those two exchanges, and they each have their own set of rules for the order in which a strategy must be submitted. The good news is that we have taken steps to walk you through that in case you do attempt to create an order backwards, and I'll show you what I mean by that, or some people like to call it upside down. But the exchange has a way in which they have a specific way in which they want to create the spread. So we see here that I created the 54-55. I'm going to create a spread in an incorrect fashion, just so everybody sort of sees what goes on there. So again, I'm going to get into my option chain, and I'll expose a little shortcut here. You cannot see my hand, but right now I'm holding down the control key. The control key is a hotkey. It's a shortcut to get into spread building mode. So you don't have to hit that custom button if you choose not to. Now I'm going to build a similar vertical, but I'm going to build it backwards. So I'm going to build the 53-54 call spread this time, call vertical. This time, I'm going to start by selecting the offer, the 53 call offer, and the 54 call bid. I'm now ready to create this exchange. Create this spread at the exchange. When I click create, we see that there is a message that pops up. And if I expand this out, unfortunately, it's a longer message. We'll see that the status here is failed. And the exchange message, and this is a message from the exchange, contract is invalid. To create a valid VT that's a vertical spread, reverse the buy-sell indications. So if you happen upon this message, we've got a couple nice shortcuts to help you out. If you use the seed function here, I can just click on that and it will put my legs right back in the way I had them. And it says we want to reverse the buy-sell indications. Great, easy enough. I'm going to reverse the sell for buy, reverse the buy for sell, and I'll go ahead and create that again. And this time, we see that the status is resolving, and the instrument is now created at the exchange. So I tried to create the 5354 vertical the wrong way the first time. So just so you're not thrown off by that sort of message, the exchange indicated you need to flip the directions of the buy and sell legs. So we did so, and we created the 5354 call vertical. I am going to switch back into simulation now. So I'm going, whoops, sorry about that. I'm going to switch back into simulation so I can execute a couple of these spreads, and we can keep an eye on the P&L and the risk characteristics of each of these. So I'll save that workspace so I can move back into simulation. And again, we'll have a couple of seconds of the workspace loading here. When I get back to our simulation environment, I'm going to execute a couple of those spreads in my simulation account, and we'll take a look at the risk profile and the P&L for each of those and how they're tracked. All right, so we see here now in my strategy creation list, tighten this up a little bit. In my strategy creation list, we see all those vertical spreads that were created. Those were created in the live environment, and of course I'm in simulation. I can still use my trade button to open up a window to trade that 5354 call vertical. So I'm going to do that now. You can also group an order ticket with, an MD trader or an order ticket with the strategy creation widget, so you don't have this floating green outline. Excuse me. So we see now in this 5354 call vertical, the market is 46 bid at 48. So in the same way that I executed that 56 call outright earlier, I can do the same on this strategy. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same, and I'll bid for a one lot of I'll bid 46 for a one lot. Now this is important. The confirmation box here comes into play and can be very, very helpful when executing strategies. The confirmation window in this case will show you each leg of the spread that you are attempting to execute. So I have not yet placed that order. My confirm window is showing me that if I buy this 5354 call vertical, I will be buying 153 call, selling 154 call. Very, very helpful for users to make sure that you're not entering your order backwards. If I were to cancel that and not enter an order, and I go ahead and offer that spread, we can see that if I confirm sell, I will now be selling one May 53 call, buying one May 54 call. So let's go ahead and confirm that sell. And I see I'm offering one at 51 cents. And again, I can drag that down. I'm going to sell this all the way down to 46 cents. I'll drag my order down, and I've executed one 5354 call vertical. So now that I've done so, a few things to note here. Let's look at our fills widget first. We see in our fills widget, there are a couple of things to notice, and this can be this can take a little getting used to as well. We see that I sold one call vertical spread, and we then see afterwards the legs. So if this is confusing to you, we show the summary fill and the leg fills. If this is confusing, you can always switch to by order or summary, so that you don't see what some might perceive as duplicate fills. So you can see your summary fills there. But keep in mind that your details what I want. By order will show you the order. So if I switch to by order, I see that I only sold one call vertical. If I switch to detail, I'll see that I sold one call vertical consisting of selling one call, buying another call. And of course, the ultimate arbiter of your position is our positions widget. So we can see here in our positions widget, I sold one 53.54 call vertical. That instrument is italicized. The reason it is because once a strategy is executed, your position is simply consists now of the legs. So despite the fact that I have sold this as a call vertical, our positions will show this as individual legs. If I were to trade out of one of those legs, for example, if I were to buy back that 53 call, we don't want to see a change in the position of the call vertical. Rather, we just want to see our entire position. So now that I've got 53.54 call spread on, and I've got the 56 call on, that was the option that I executed when we started this webinar. We can see over in our options chain as well, our position is represented in line with the instrument. Once you have a position on in a spread or a strategy, there are a number of position management tools that sometimes can be for the more advanced user. And one of my favorites is the risk matrix. And what the positions widget, of course, will show you your outright position and the P&L associated with each leg. So we see that I'm down 10 simulation dollars at the moment. What the risk matrix does is it takes your current position. So I've got these three instruments on, these three options on, and it shows you what your position would look like in various scenarios. On the x-axis, I have shocked the underlying level. So at 0, this is the current underlying price. We see that my P&L, I'm now down, at the time that I refresh this, I was down $15. I was long 0.25 delta, 0.06 gamma. We won't go into detailed explanation of those, but of course, we can always dive in deeper later. And we see that on the way up, so if the crude future rises 5%, rises 10%, rises 20%, we can see how our position changes. So I can see that if crude were to rise 5%, my P&L would be $866. If crude were to fall 5%, I would lose $495 carrying this position. Those scenarios can be set in any way that the user chooses. You can set any interval, any number of scenarios that you want to see. That's on the x-axis. On the y-axis, we have volatility shocks. So if volatility is up 5%, I see that I make $100 here. If volatility is down 5%, I see that I lose $109. And then, of course, you've got any combination of scenarios. So if crude were to rally, I would assume that vol would be going up. So what I really want to happen here is a rally in crude, moving to the right on the x-axis, and vol up. And we see that if crude were to rally 10% and vol were up 5%, I'd make $2,300 on this trade, $2,347. The risk matrix is, as I said, a bit of an advanced tool. I would definitely remind everybody that in the top right corner of every widget, there is a question mark, and that will lead you to our help article on that widget, in which you can find all kinds of details on the meaning of each of these settings, definitions of each Greek, how to set your risk matrix or any other widget up in the way that you would prefer, and suggested tasks, creating risk scenarios, et cetera, which is what I kind of breezed over quickly there. Excuse me. While we're in here, I'm going to go, so all I've done here is execute a very basic call vertical. I'm going to do something very similar with a call butterfly. Now, again, I would need to go into the live environment to create the strategy, come back to Sim to execute it. So I've taken a bit of a shortcut here, and I've pulled up all active strategies in crude oil. Now, the list of these is incredibly long. And so what I've done is put them all into a market grid. And so I'm just going to come in here and find myself a butterfly or an iron condor that I can execute, so we can take a look at the risk characteristics of the butterfly. And boy, are there a lot of crude strategies. And let's see if I can find a butterfly. We can also look for them in our advanced search. If I go to CME strategy, CME TL family, LO. Because there are so many, it will take a moment to load, but if I want to look for all butterflies, I can narrow it down that way. So let's go to all butterflies, and let's do that market grid. And I've got an April 65 half, 68 half call butterfly that's been created by another user. So again, if I click on the bidder offer, I can bring up an order entry widget for that butterfly. I'm going to go ahead and execute a one lot. I'm going to pay a penny on this butterfly, and this is in simulation. Again, we'll get our confirm button. With a butterfly or a condor or any multi-leg spread, this becomes even more helpful. So we can see if I buy the butterfly, I'm going to be buying the wings and selling the middle. I'll confirm that. And I've executed one. We can see that my position here is 1 on that butterfly. We can see in my positions widget, again, I've executed that butterfly, and we see that italicized, but it's been broken down now into individual legs. So I can see that I'm long 1 of the wings and short 2 of the body. If we look at our risk matrix and refresh, we'll now see that our position's a bit more complex. And since I executed that butterfly in April, I can switch to my April view to see what the risk characteristics in my April position are, or to the May view to see that just that vertical that I executed earlier, or of course, for the entire crude oil complex, you can see your global position, and that's what I prefer to look at. Keep in mind that there are a number of strategies that are supported at each exchange, particularly at CME, which is where many of you will be trading. There are dozens and dozens of supported strategy types. So you'll see in my strategy creation widget, I mentioned earlier, my favorite method was to build the strategy from the option chain. If you want to operate in a more sort of streamlined environment, or perhaps you don't need that visual cue like I do, you can always choose a supported strategy type from our templates in the strategy creation widget itself. So if I were to choose butterfly, we see that it's set up in the proper 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to amend the strikes. So we put because we don't know which strike you want, we use the last contract that you selected. But if I want to change this to a 54-58 call fly, very easy to do. And you'll see that the theoretical value is updated, the Greeks are updated, and were I in the live environment right now, I could send an RFQ, request for quote. I could create this now. Since I am not, nothing will happen when I click create. Keep in mind, and I won't go into the details on every strategy type here, but everything that is supported at the exchange level is listed here. So if you're looking for a 1x2, a 2x3, a risk reversal, a straddle, a strangle, all of that is available to you as a template. And you have the ability to save your own user-defined templates as well. So if you wanted to build sort of an odder strategy that perhaps was not supported at the exchange, maybe I want to trade a 1x2x4 or something unusual that's not a standard strategy type. I'm going to show you how you can build something like that and save it. So again, I'm going to build from the option chain. You can't see my hand, but I'm holding down the control button. I'm going to build the 49, 50, 51, 1x2x4. I don't know why. Maybe I've got an inkling on that. I'm going to click the bid once, 50 offer twice, 1x2. You see my quantity increasing here, and 4 of the 51s. This is kind of an overloaded butterfly, if you will. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, you can amend these quantities in here. If I want to change that to a 5, I could. If I want to change it to a 3, whatever I want to do, I can do that. But if this is a strategy that perhaps I want to, I want to keep around and keep in my back pocket to look at later, I can save this as a custom strategy type. And I can name it. So let's call that, let's call this FuturesPlus strategy. And I can save that strategy type. And when I go back into templates, we'll see that that's available to me as well, 1x2x4. So if I come back in tomorrow, I can pull up that custom strategy as well. Certainly, we could go on and on about additional strategy types. I won't. I think for the purposes of this for this demonstration, that wraps up what I want to cover. I'm going to pass the microphone back over to Mike to wrap us up and perhaps address any questions that may have come up, or perhaps any questions that you have yourself, Mike. But I'm going to pass over a presentation now.
Thanks, Bernie. That was fantastic. We don't have any questions in the chat right now, but if anyone has any questions, I'm going to put my email into the chat. It's mburke@tradestation.com, and I'll make sure that your questions get answered. We're going to be holding these types of events every month with Bernie, so please keep a lookout on the calendar and in the newsletter, and come and join us for the next edition of Futures Plus. Thank you very much, Bernie. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And we'll see you again at another upcoming TradeStation event. Have a great afternoon.